Greetings, Zimbabwe, Africa, and the world. Welcome to In Conversation with Trevor, a show where we get beyond the headlines and beyond the sensational. Today, we're in conversation with Zimbabwe's Minister of Youth, Sports, Arts, and Recreation, Kirsty Coventry.
Let's go see you. Look, it's Trevor.
Hello.
Say hi.
Hello, lady.
Please come on in.
Thank you very much. Hello, baby.
Say
Thank
hi.
Greetings, Minister, and welcome to In Conversations with Trevor. Thank you so much for allowing us into your beautiful home. I don't even know where to start in congratulating you, but I suppose let me start off with Ella. She's only 2 months old. Tell us about Ella.
Ella, she's been amazing. It's obviously our first baby, so first-time parents, learning something new every single day. She keeps us on our toes. She keeps us up at night some days, but it's amazing. It's been an incredible experience. I had a little bit of a rough pregnancy and a lot going on. I found out I was pregnant 5 days before I was then appointed. So lots of emotions, lots of stress, I would say. But it's now that she's here, it really is incredible being a mom and being able to watch her grow. And just in 2 months, I can't believe how big she's gotten and how many new things she's already doing. It's fun.
So where were you when you got the news that you've been appointed Minister of Sports, Arts and Culture?
So we had just held a forum. One of my roles is I sit on the International Olympic Committee as an athlete representative, and then I sit on the executive board. And we had just held a continental forum for African athletes, and we hosted it here in Zimbabwe. And we had just finished up our forum. It was a Friday afternoon. We had just wrapped up. I had some of the IOC staff members here with me. So I said, right, we're taking you out to lunch. And then from lunch, we're going to go out to see my Heroes program, which is my foundation. We're going to play some sports and we're going to get outside because we've been stuck in a conference center the last few days. And so we went and we were sitting at Bottom Drawer having some lunch. And during that lunch call, I had to jump on a conference call with the executive board. And so I was sitting there and trying to multitask, and I'm trying to eat and then listening to my call. And then all of a sudden, my husband's cell phone starts ringing. And I look at him and he has this complete sort of look on his face of confusion. And I looked over and I'm like, are you okay? He's like, yeah, I'll tell you later. I think it's just social media. So I'm like, okay. And so I just continue listening to my phone call, and every now and again I get up because I have to go and speak. So I leave the table and I come back, and now the entire table looks confused. So now I'm thinking, what is happening? So I sit back down, I'm still listening. I have my headphones in my one ear, and I'm like, what's going on? He's like, you're Minister of Youth, Sport and Art. And I was like, no, I'm not. What are you talking about? He goes, yep. The president just made the announcement on TV. And I said, sorry, what?
What went through your mind?
Because there was so much going on in that space at that time, I don't think there was really anything at that point. It was just a bit of like surreal. I was almost like an out-of-body experience. I was like, no, wait, what are you talking about? This is, President, he's only going to be announcing his cabinet late, in a few weeks. And surely this is just social media. And
so you were never warned that you'd be made a minister?
No, I wasn't. Which at the time, I think I was very taken back. But at the same time, I was also very honored that my name had obviously been put in front of him. Yeah.
It's almost 11 months into the job.
Yeah.
How has been the journey?
I would say it's been a rocky journey, and rocky not because of anything negative, or I think rocky in terms of just figuring out exactly what my roles and responsibilities are. And obviously not being and coming from either political party, navigating the politics, and navigating what people assume to be the truth. That's quite interesting. And navigating going from an athlete where you're very much loved, and if anyone dares say anything bad about you, you get annihilated, to now stepping into a role where I don't feel like I've changed as a person. My values, my morals, what I stand for, being a proud Zimbabwean hasn't changed. But having people assume or think that all of a sudden I'm bad, or I've changed, or now I'm siding with one party over the other. Or
are you a politician, Kirsty? Have you changed into a politician from being a sport icon to a politician?
No. No, I don't believe I have. I think I made a very clear decision in 2004 when I won my first Olympic medals, and I came back, and we all know as a country what we were going through there. And in 2004 and 2008, when again we had quite a divide in our country, I made it very clear to politicians and politics and parties that I wasn't going to be a pawn, I wasn't going to be used. And for me, that's still very important. So as long as I can come in and make change and create structures, and I can see that there are really good things that we can achieve as a ministry, then I'm more than happy to continue doing what I'm doing and to continue on this path. For me, it's very easy that as soon as politics starts coming into play and starts getting clouding and starts not allowing me to do my job and to make a difference and to change things that I think can be changed, then I have an easy decision.
So far, you feel you're having a positive impact?
So far, I do think I'm able to have a positive impact. And I've been extremely lucky and very well supported by my other ministers, by His Excellency, very much so. I think for me, I was probably a little bit nervous, going in and having different meetings, updating him on things, giving him my recommendations, to sort of see what his response would be, because I don't think, he knows I'm not a politician, and he knows I'm not going to play those politics. And so, going in and having conversations where sometimes it might be a little bit crazy of my thoughts, he's always been extremely supportive, and I'm very lucky with that. And so for me, that also shows that there is and can be some change, which I think is very positive.
Let's talk about Kirsty, the sport icon, your achievements. What has been the highlights for you as a sports person?
I think, obviously my Olympic career have definitely been my highlights. But I think looking, now that I'm retired, looking back at my career and seeing where I came from and the journey that I took, I think I was extremely fortunate and very lucky to have the career that I did for so long as well. 5 Olympic Games, not many athletes can say that. And walking away with 7 Olympic medals, world records, being the best. Really, I think there's not really one particular moment that stands out, and I think that's where I'm very fortunate, is I have a bunch. But I also think a lot of the memories that are helping me in this position now and in my life are probably the times when it was really tough and when it was hard and when things weren't going right and when I didn't win those races, because that's when you really figured out your strengths and your weaknesses, how you cope with things, how you look at it.
So it's the tough times that make us who we are.
I think so. I think so. I think that's when you really learn a lot about yourself. You learn, I think, probably more importantly, about the people around you, the people that are there to help you and guide you through a situation, or do they just abandon, jump ship?
Right. When we started, I said there's a lot of things that we must congratulate you for. The women's netball team has done the nation a lot of proud. What has contributed to that?
Well, firstly, thank you, and thank you for being so kind. I really didn't do anything. It's all the athletes. They're an incredible team. They're an incredible group of women. They are very, they want to do well. They have been training extremely hard for a long time. They made us extremely proud by just qualifying for the World Championships, and now getting as far as they did. They really have, I think, made us so proud. But again, it comes down to, I think, if I look at the ministry's role, the sports and recreation role, the federation's role, I think we need to do a lot better.
In what areas?
In areas of properly getting structures around supporting our athletes continuously. And you know what I saw with netball, and I was on maternity leave, but all I saw is all of a sudden people suddenly woke up and realized we're going to the World Championship, even though we knew last year. Then everyone jumped on the bandwagon. Then it was, fundraising here and fundraising there. And as wonderful as that is, I want to see if that's going to happen afterwards. It has to be continuous. We can't just suddenly wake up and be like, oh, next week we have an Olympic Games, we should get some funding. Well, the athletes have been training for the past 4 years.
So clearly the mother bodies are not doing enough to prepare.
And I think that the mother bodies and the national federations try. And part of my job is, especially with the sports and recreation and with the new board that I've put in place, is to try and figure out how are we going to better support our federations, and how are we going to better get buy-in from the corporates, because we've lost that, and a lot of those corporate sponsors have walked away because of bad governance.
Are you happy with where the Sports and Recreation Council Committee is?
Yes, I appointed the board. I have a lot of faith in them. I think it's important to note that as much as I appointed the board, I also have faith in them, and I'm not going to micromanage, and it's not my place to then go and second guess everything that they're doing. Obviously, some of their decisions recently have brought us into today's world with the ICC suspending cricket, but maybe that's what we needed.
Let's talk about that. The ICC has decided to suspend the Zimbabwean cricket because what they allege is political interference. What's your view about that?
Well, I think they're completely wrong. I think the ICC chairman and the report of saying that there was government interference, I strongly disagree with. I've read their constitution. Now, if they had said that it was a public body that had interfered, then I can understand. But they've specifically said government interference, and there was no government interference. I did not interfere. I appointed the SRC board, which is allowed, which is the ICC have allowed countries like Afghanistan and Pakistan for their heads of state to appoint the chairman of their boards, and that hasn't been seen as government interference. So I'm extremely disappointed in the decision, and my disappointment is for our players. I know that both the SRC board and I would like to believe the chairman of ZC have and want and never wanted this to get to this far. I will be talking to both boards to look and see how we move forward, because I think at the end of the day, again, I've made it very clear that my priority is the athletes. without athletes, we don't have sport. And we know, and we've known as a country for a long time, that there have been different ongoings and not the best of governance within Zim cricket, and something did need to be done.
So this dates back as far as 2018.
I think even before that.
Before that.
Yeah.
When we have, the nation has been dealing with allegations of impropriety within the Zimbabwe Cricket Board, to the extent where funds from the ICC have been mismanaged or not used according to the way that they should. Why wouldn't the ICC support a measure that is intended to clean house and bring about good governance and financial management within our cricket body?
That's the question I would love them to answer. I'm not sure, and that is a question that I would, if given the opportunity, would love to ask the ICC and the chairman, because coming from a sporting background, that is what we want to see. We want to ensure that our federations are being governed correctly, especially when there is finance involved, and big amounts of finance. And it's interesting, if we this term about government interference, I feel is being thrown around very loosely, because no one really had a problem with government interference when we took on the debt. But now when we try to clean house...
Why now?
That's a good question. The one that I have not been able to...
I've been following what David Coltart, former minister, and Henry Olonga, what their views are on what's happening. And the sense I'm getting is this is a terrible decision by ICC, which basically stops the cricket supporters and the players getting rid of an administration that has become a dead weight on the game.
100%. This isn't who is this hurting ultimately? It's not hurting anybody except for the players and for, as you said, the fans, and for Zimbabwe. It's how is this really affecting the board? It's not really affecting anybody else. I'm hoping to sit down with the former chairman when he comes back from London to chat with him. I would, there's been things feedback that I've had that happened at the meeting that I would want some clarity on in terms of how the meeting between our representatives, or the representatives and the ICC board, how it all went down.
So what I'm picking up is that the board that was suspended, the chairman actually campaigned for the suspension of Zimbabwe, that the players were not given an opportunity to explain their unhappiness with the board. Something seems not to gel there.
So that's the same story that I've been given, and that's one of my biggest conversations and points that I would like to give the opportunity to the chairman, is to say, this is what I'm hearing. If you were championing the suspension because you didn't like the call of the SRC, let's put egos aside, and if you had nothing to hide, what was the issue? And to be very fair, as a chairman of a federation, your priorities are the game, and second, and the players first. So if you were championing the suspension, how are you proving to the fans, Zimbabwe, or the game, or the players, that you have their best interest at heart? I would like to give them that opportunity to answer those points, but those are what I would like to have answered.
So as a nation, we have until October to sort out this issue, or the suspension continues. And the suspension is no funding for cricket, no games sanctioned by the ICC. Do you think by October you and the mother body and everybody interested would have found a solution to this crisis?
we had better have. There's no option. I will respect the international sports rules of no government interference, but the pressure from myself to the boards will be sorted out.
Do you
make
think
sure that this is done correctly and make sure we have a pathway forward. And there has to be better communication. And there also has to be, I think in previous years, the SRC board has never been taken seriously. And I think the new board coming in knew that. And they also had to, sort of say, well, this is what we think and this is what we feel and this is how we want to make sure that, people are listening and we are here to help. I believe that it all started just because a letter was sent to say, please postpone your General Assembly because we haven't received an agenda, members haven't received an agenda, and that's against your own constitution.
Minister, when are we going to get to a place where the people who love particular disciplines, sports, people who've been successful administrators, sport lovers, actually are the people that run particular disciplines, rather than having the politically connected businessmen who have no interest or opportunities coming in and messing up our various sports disciplines?
Yeah. I always find that question so interesting because when people, I think, finally get these positions and they suddenly realize, oh, wait, I don't make a lot of money from that? Sports administration doesn't really pay? Oh, wait, I didn't really want this position to begin with. I think that it's a mix. I think the Sports and Recreation Commission, one of the things that we've spoken about is that exactly. How do we help federations? Because ultimately that's what the commission is there for. They're there to help oversee that national federations, national associations are running towards their and under their governance and good governance and their structure and their development. And part of that development is trying to figure out how best to identify exactly those people that you're talking about.
Shouldn't your pressure be on the criteria? What criteria are we looking for?
Yeah.
Can Trevor Ncube be part of the Zimbabwe Cricket Board? I know nothing about cricket. Can I be in football? Is the criteria right? Are we choosing the right people to do this thing?
Well, I think in the past, if I look at the federations and especially over the last few years when things in the country have been more difficult, so sports federations have tend to be run maybe primarily by people who just are passionate and love that sport, which is great, but does that make them the right person? Because I can be passionate about something, but I may not know anything about how to grow that sport or what to do or how to manage it.
So we've been, the netballing team has made us proud.
Yes.
But we can't say the same with the Warriors. Some people have been, asking for, drastic stuff to be done to the Warriors.
Yep.
Where do we go as far as Warriors are concerned? Again, I think it's down to governance issues.
It is.
We're back to preparing for the AFCON in 2 weeks when we knew 3-4 years ago that this is going to happen. How and when are we going to stop this?
Yeah, well, that's always my first question is, we knew AFCON was coming. And again, it does come down to the management, and the federations do have to take responsibility for that because, as an athlete, you are going and you're training and you're putting in the time, and then all of a sudden in the newspaper you read, if you go to AFCON and get this far, you're going to get this bonus and you're going to make this money. Well, can you imagine what kind of pressure that is? And how do we do that to our athletes 2 weeks before a game? To say, this is the expectation of you. Okay, where were you before this? Where were you why wasn't that team that went to AFCON with some of our players not being based here, why were they only training 2 weeks together before? Why had we not been doing national training days once a month for the past 2 years, so that the players get to know each other and get to know how you can't just glue a team together 2 weeks before and say, off you go win us a medal.
You've won medals for this country and for yourself. What has motivated you? Was it the money? Was it the national colors? Was it your own success as an individual? Because one gets the sense that the monetary rewards, much more than anything else, are what motivates our players.
I think it's going to be different for everybody. For me, swimming was the wrong sport if I wanted to make money. Unless you're Michael Phelps.
Right.
You really don't. I was very fortunate to be able to have sponsors where I could train and live and not have to work while I was training, and that allowed me to do that. So I was very, very fortunate with that. Obviously, when I was 9 years old, it was to go to the Olympic Games and win a gold medal, and that's sort of what pushed me and carried me. When I got to my first Olympic Games, realizing what the Olympic means, the values, the spirit of an Olympic Games, again, that kind of created that fire. And that's what led me to my first medals in 2004. And after that, it changed a little bit to me wanting to better myself and be like, how far can I push myself? What can I achieve as physiologically, what can I achieve? So for me, it was always about how can I try and get better? And then secondly, making my country proud.
So how do we make our players feel and think the way you do? Being proud to represent your nation.
We give them comfort.
When our mother bodies are driving away the sponsors, who would fund the business?
Yeah, so that's what we have to change. So the reason I said earlier is I was very fortunate to have sponsors, and my primary sponsor, Econet. I was fortunate because they allowed me the comfort of knowing I could get up every day, not have to worry about where my next meal was coming, not have to worry about, am I going to be able to pay my rent? Yes, I still had to budget for things, but I had that opportunity. We have to be able to give our national teams that same comfort. Otherwise, we can't expect anything more from them.
Can I put you on the spot and say, would you be able to achieve this in the next?
I hope so.
Term?
I hope so. I hope that I can achieve that. It's part of what I firmly believe is one of the core challenges we have within our sport. Is everything is always done so last minute, and we can't continue to keep doing the same thing and expect a different result.
Right.
For me, and maybe because I was an individual sport, it allowed me to go outside of the country and train and compete. And again, I didn't have a team, so I didn't have a huge governing body. So sponsors were coming to sponsor me as an individual, not as a team. And that's what's letting down our team sports right now. If we look at our Warriors, if we look at our netball girls, if we look at our rugby, if we look at our team sports, most of the corporates will always look at those governing bodies, because that's who they're having to deal with. They're not dealing with an individual athlete.
And it looks like they don't have confidence in those governing bodies.
I don't think they do. I think slowly but surely they're starting to gain the confidence back in rugby, but that's been a lot of hard work by rugby. And our federations, Zim Cricket's a great example right now. The country, we've all had questions for the last 10, 15 years. Even if this board is trying and is doing everything right, they have to prove themselves more than anybody else because of their history.
My last question to you is going to be, if you were to address the ICC right now, what would be your message to them?
I think my message to them I would want to really understand their decision. And I would want them to understand the decision that I believe was taken by SRC was a decision to try and help and clean up Zimbabwe cricket. And I would also want them to understand that their decision has hurt our players. And for a governing body, that for me is something that should never be done. Sitting on the International Olympic Committee, looking at the decisions that we've had to take as a body, the athletes have always been put first. We've always found a way to make sure that the athletes don't get hurt by something they have absolutely no control over. And for me, that's been the biggest disappointment with this decision from the ICC, is I feel that that just hasn't been given any consideration.
Minister, on behalf of all the cricket-loving fans, thank you so much for allowing us to come into your home on a Friday afternoon. And we hope that come October, cricket Zimbabwe will be back into the international fold, making this nation proud. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.